Thank you so much. So I'd like to welcome our other panelists to the stage. I think it's a really exciting conversation that we're having now. So please, everyone else will come on board and then we'll introduce ourselves accordingly. Okay?
Ladies, please come.
Cristina. Amazing, thank you. Fab, so let me take a seat here. And what would be amazing to start is just to hear an introduction to each of you before we start the conversation. We do have one other lovely panelist that's joining us now as well. Amazing. You're just in time. We've not started the introductions yet. So maybe we'll start with the introductions. If you'd like to just introduce yourself and your organization. Yes.
My name is Marwa Mansoori. I am CEO of Garden of Life, which is a global project and initiative starting from Dubai to the rest of the world.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kokila. I'm founder of KARM Legal Consultants. We're a law firm based out of UAE that focuses in the emerging tech sector. So yes, metaverse is a real world we live in. And I've been running this law firm. I started this law firm 4 years back. So welcome to UAE.
Hi, I'm Cristina Ventura, living in Singapore, partner at White Star Capital. White Star is a $1 billion fund, and we are launching now a specialized fund in digital asset. So it's a 120 million fund, and we will focus a lot on metaverse, Web 3.0, and as well DeFi.
Amazing. It's great to have you all on this panel discussion, and we have actually tweaked the name of this slightly because I think there is typically a bit of a bad habit when there's women-only panels and the topic is women that you start to see the men leave the room a little bit. So we're going to describe it more as future entrepreneurs because that can be so inclusive to different genders and also different nationalities from different regions as well. But the topic is still there, and how to ensure that future entrepreneurs really thrive in the space. And I think each of you have great testaments when it comes to your background and your knowledge. So maybe if we start with one key experience that you've encountered that's really been really crucial for you when scaling your organization, a life lesson along the way.
So in fact, I have several examples. I love this area for the last several years. And my background, it comes more from corporate. So I've been working on big corporates like Prada IPO, then Apple Hong Kong and China. And afterwards, I worked for one of the biggest families in Asia to digitalize and to invest in startups. And now, the last even 5 years, we started with blockchain. So blockchain has been a big area for us. We did all the possible mistakes into starting at the investment. And one, for example, was more focusing on digital assets and how to tokenize. For example, what I have here is tokenized second-hand luxury goods. So that's how we started, tokenizing and at the same time giving a new asset value to luxury goods. So for example, how many people here has luxury goods at home? All of us, right? Something that is definitely potential asset, and we are thinking how to tokenize and how to bring a new asset class into our lives. So imagine that you can tokenize your jewelry, your asset class, your cars, your villas, So this is something very interesting, and we are working with Vogue Singapore, with Bettina, on Bright Hole, which is an NFT platform for artists, designers, and for tokenization. So that's a very nice example. Bright Hole is a great example.
Sorry, the questions around great examples in the NFT blockchain space?
Yes, more how to ensure you kind of are amplifying your skill set in this new economy, from an entrepreneurial perspective.
So being in this space where we're working on the legal advisory, I would say we've seen many projects, out of which around 90% of them have not been able to scale up or have not been able to launch themselves, not because the tech wasn't great, the technology has always been great on which they tried to build up their projects, but what we observed that what they were lacking was the focus on what is the end product. Like today, this morning, I was on a call in a great NFT marketplace they want to launch, and the tech is beautiful, and they said there's going to be a token that's going to sit there. And I spent like good 45 minutes with the tech team trying to understand what is the token going to do? What is the main use case of this token? We understand that you are building it on ERC-77, it's going to be great, you're going to do NFT, but you need to have a very strong objective with every project you launch. Because every time when we have looked at projects and trying to do what we say the peeling off to understand that what lies underneath it, the only projects that have done really well or have been able to scale up and got all regulatory approvals or licensing or funding and everything have been the projects which have thought through that, not only just the technology, the product, the business sense, the commercial angle to it, understanding that how will they plan the next 2 years, 5 years, just like any other normal business. Some of the startups that we've looked at, which started with, the main factor for their growth has been they've been very agile in nature. So the technology is fluid, you can play around with it, you should have the same flexibility with your business as well.
Fantastic.
So I'd just like to give an experience about myself and to share that. So I've been working in 2015 for 4 years in the executive council in the government. 2018, I decided to go full into the private sectors and go into the technology world. My background is strategy, management, and business, so I had no idea what I was doing. But then I really liked it. And why did I like it? I had the right people around me, the right community around me. And now, being the CEO of Garden of Life, I'll just go back to your question and how do entrepreneurs thrive? It goes back to having the right community and doing something to give back to the community, and this is what we represent. And having the right advisors. You do not need to know everything. If you have advisors, if you have a strong technical team, if you have a strong strategy team, a marketing team, it all goes back to the project being a global expansion in a way.
Amazing. And I think what's so interesting, speaking to all three of you, is you are at a higher tier of your entrepreneurial journey. And for a lot of people that are watching, we are also in this progression. We're already on this train track. But as this digital economy continues to grow, there is the question of agility, being able to pivot your business model to make sure that you're always ahead of the curve, or at least acknowledging metaverse, NFTs. When we were first introduced to blockchain a few years ago, we might not have thought that the industry would have moved in this direction. So what advice would you give to ensure that you're constantly aware, educating, and also maybe reevaluating your business model?
So I'll start here. So I like the word pivoting. See, a couple of years ago, pivoting is just a failure angle, right? Right now, when you pivot, especially with investors, it's a good sign that you have plan B, plan C. So how can you go wise there is you always should be, especially in the metaverse world, in the digital world, you should be imaginative and not put a limit to it, right? So if a business proposal, you can change it in 2 days, 3 days, why not? Just go ahead and change it. That's going to be implemented in the metaverse, right? Or in the digital world, let's say. So there's no limits, honestly, I think.
You know, and one of the great things about being agile and always being ready to grow is we are looking at a world which is constantly changing. We are in that change itself. So you cannot be no longer running a business and saying, that's it. We've reached our ceiling and we're not going to grow from here. Because that is not going to take you anywhere further. And especially now, say, look at the use case of blockchain. We started with the whole cryptocurrency space. We moved on, we saw the use of it in more on these data processing, just using blockchain for data storage, and that's it. Then we saw the use case in medcare. We saw the use case in education. We saw the use cases in health tech. All these, and now we see the NFTs, we see how the artists and the commoners, what blockchain was meant to be for enabling the commoners, actually doing it now. And now we have this beautiful metaverse space. And it's quite interesting for us as lawyers to keep connecting the projects which are up in the air to bring it down to the legal system on the ground. So it's quite interesting, and let's see how it goes on.
I think that you brought an excellent point, because all of us, we need to reinvent ourselves at some point in our lives, and definitely after COVID, it has been accentuated. I'm very positive, so I definitely take it in the positive side. So very interesting to see, for example, the luxury industry. I've been in luxury for the last 20 years, and I could feel, and I'm sure all of us, we feel from products, right, from LVMH or rather beautiful products, then it goes into experiences and to tech, definitely, like Apple, and now, of course, is into impact. So if I ask you, what is luxury to you? So luxury, it's becoming more an experience. It's becoming even impacting other people's lives. So that's exactly what the metaverse is bringing us. So I can feel, for example, how investing in incredible entrepreneurs, in NFT, in art designs, and so on, that can be, tokenized, things that can be fractionalized. It's still very early. So me personally, the more I know I don't know. I'm literally learning every day, trying to read 1 or 2 hours a day in a very nerdy way, because it's important to be aware, right? And talking to, of course, my nieces and nephews, even teenagers or 10 years old, you can feel that they're already, discussing about crypto. So that's an interesting as well way to understand how to bring our experiences, no matter what background, age, race, color, or even passion, to bring into the next level of integrating experiences that everybody can collaborate, can co-create, and we can become all one, and bringing things much better together, right?
I completely agree. And I would love to ask each three of you now, because you all have such different business models and such different experience, but we're all here at the same conference discussing the same technology. We've heard the word metaverse, NFTs come up from three of you today. Where are we headed? Where do you see your organizational structure? Where do you see that sector moving when it comes to the technology space?
Going back to my first point also, it's, where do I see that? I see no limits. If you have the right people around you, there's no limits. You can push forward, aim for global expansion, aim for, especially our project, which is the Garden of Life. It's more of a global expansion. It's one project that hosts knowledge transfer, sustainability, alternative energies, all in one. And why are we doing that? It's creating a bridge between one country to another. So it's not just focusing on the technology part. It's focusing on how can we ignite and empower that culture and that type of tools for our future generation.
So it's cross-border as well. It's scaling.
Exactly. It's cross-border, and there's no limits for that. And I think it's, and this is why it's being accelerated this fast. Everyone believes in it. It's a diverse project, and it's a diverse vision.
Amazing. Thank you.
I would say purely from the legal and the business side, we're still at stage 1 of the technology. We still need to wait and watch how it grows. A decade, more than a decade, the blockchain has been there now. In fact, I studied about this whole digital signatures and cryptography laws way back in 2003. So from there, we've seen that how the technology's grown, how it's become stronger and stronger and stronger, and now reaching a point where we can actually see projects going live on it. But now when we're discussing with some of the regulators and when we're giving the advice on a project, they're asking us for the risk mitigation, and we're saying there's going to be a lot of wait and watch in this. We can put these measures in place, we can make the team very strong, we can put the compliances, checks and balance, everything in place, but it's still a very, very long way for us to go.
So why to start, we do a lot of analytics as well on the trends, right? So every season we have a lot of internal teams very passionate about the topic and definitely doing a lot of research on what's next. And we realize as well that it depends as well on the area. So for example, what is going on in Asia, I can feel that there's a lot of advancement, right, in technology and adoption. So I see as well different paths. This is personal, but I see more like just the physical things, for example, the metaverse, and then enhance, of course, with technology. Then the phygital, we call it in consumer tech, physical and digital experiences, or fully integrated digital. So it depends where we go, but definitely I believe it will be decentralized, it will be empowered by the user, and it will be on communities. So it will be, I believe, hopefully, very community-driven, values-driven, and you will be able to invest or co-create or, live and be aligned with the people that you want to be part of their lives. So I believe it as well in a very philosophical way. It can be something very transcendental as well. You know, the conscious consumption way of doing things much more mindfully and impacting for good. So I think that what's going on, it's a beautiful example how, with the digital assets and of course with crypto, there's a lot of support happening virtually. So it's interesting to see in any part of the world, how can we support each other?
Just on that point, so I always struggle when I'm looking at a case which is a pure decentralized matter. Because every time we've discussed on the legal structure for something like this, we hit a roadblock with the regulators or say with the law, which still does not support a fully decentralized. And we always go back and saying that technology is ready and whatever you need to know about investor protection, customer protection, data protection, all this is in place. Then also it's very difficult to overcome that. Do you think that this could be in the next phase of it, or we still need to wait for a long term for it to actually become a big, massive use case for the products to be actually in the decentral space?
I believe we'll be as well connected with the governments, and I'm sure you face that a lot. Whatever we launch, for example, in one region might not be applicable in another region. So it very much depends on the government connection. So I work now, for example, with EDB, Economic and Development Board of Singapore. They are very open to listen to the metaverse and to new things because that's the future of consumerism in a way. But it's still very early stage.
Yes, still at a very early stage.
Very early stage. But if the government, for example, integrates and it's open to it, then I think that could be a very kind of a catalyst for change.
And the objectives that all three of you are looking to obtain from all of the organizations you represented today are not easy. We've got kind of from different regions reaching out and creating that connection to scaling, to creating kind of a sustainable ecosystem. What are some of the biggest challenges that each of you are facing right now, and how are you working to overcome them?
I think I go back to your point, which is regulations. So it goes back to we can do anything in the private sectors, but needs the government regulations, and we need to abide that. So it's basically that's the biggest challenge we're facing right now. We don't know what regulation, and we need to abide that type of regulation, whether it's going to come out, when will it come out, and how can we align our project to respectful of the leadership and the regulations that is going to follow.
And just to follow on that, because I'm sure everyone in the room can agree with you that that is a challenge that I'm sure all of us are faced with new and innovative technology. How do you get that fine balance between working with regulators but not stifling your own innovation?
It's just being flexible and having that open mind and accepting it. And accepting whether maybe waking up tomorrow morning and all the regulations would change. Why not, But we're ready for that too. So it's just acceptance.
And a good mindset as well. It's a very aggressive stance, which is like just move forward no matter the obstacle. Thank you.
Now, so it's undoubtedly the regulatory environment that makes it challenging for these projects. Having said that, but that regulatory and technology gap has been there for hundreds and thousands of years. So you cannot have internet or say cyber protection till you did not have internet. So you first need to have the technology, then the regulations will follow. What is interesting is now to see that we are in this instant world where everything gets done instantly. We're expecting the regulators and the legal systems which have been written and been worked on for more than hundreds of years to change overnight, adapting to the new technology. Which if we accept that it will take its time, that's a good thing for every business to do. We also now should appreciate that most of the regulators, so like how she gave example of Singapore, we give example of UAE, be it ESCA, be it ADGM, DIFC, they've gone ahead and they've issued out some frameworks and they've been very open with dialogues and saying, okay, come and discuss your project with us. If it makes sense to us, but we do see that we do not have regulations, we'll take you in a sandbox. So we see that these regulators are also trying to overcome that challenge because this was the biggest challenge that the whole technology's growth has been facing globally. So I am hoping that one day we will reach a point that it will not be as big a challenge as it is right now, but currently it's one of the biggest challenges.
Can I add just one thing on that? And yes, Exactly, it's a sandbox. So especially for entrepreneurs, for startups, for projects, you should not be afraid, because especially the government here would want to work with you.
Yeah.
You know, they would want to give you that space, but the framework might not be there or will be there. But, you know, knock the door and give yourself a try. You know, they would collaborate with you.
Yes, absolutely.
So to build on that, definitely fully agree. We need you. We need you too. We definitely need this support, but as well the educational part. I believe education will be a big part of it, and educate as well the responsibility of the actions that we take, because there's a lot of downsides, of course, with any new technology. So how to be conscious and responsible of what we do as pioneers, or as a passionate for innovation and technology, and definitely what it's next. So I believe it comes with a lot of ownership, responsibility, leadership, and making sure that we do good and do well with it. Instead of opportunistic, to be instead of transactional, to be transformational for good.
And just to build on that, what kind of practices then are all of you putting in place when it comes to the future objectives, when it comes to incorporating new technology, but also more inclusivity? This was a woman in tech panel and we've adapted it slightly, but also to make sure that the future is more encompassing for different regions, different genders as well. How is that part of the roadmap as well?
So in my perspective for Garden of Life and how we work in that way, so we are a mega project and the first and the largest project in this region that's hybrid, which is going to be physical and going to be in the metaverse too. And how did we get that? Of course, it's also collaboration with the government and the private sectors, and following their mandate, looking at the agenda and saying, okay, this is the UAE strategic agenda, this is our project, this is how we fit together. And it goes back in that way. And what are we doing is creating a platform for social development, for women empowerment. I'm proud to announce that we are an all-women executive team, empowered by the youth too, from all over the world. And it's the tools we give them. So it goes back to the future generation. In the older mindset and the older generations, it's what tools, what skills are we giving our children, our grandchildren, right? But now in the digital world, we need to create that tools. We need to supervise and oversee that and let them do what they're good at. So, yeah.
That's remarkable. So you're going to be in a set metaverse, or you're building your own?
We're going to be in the physical world. Location will be announced in a month's time. And it's going to be in the middle of Dubai. And it's a hybrid project, so it's going to be launched in the metaverse also in a couple of months.
Very interesting. That's the first time I've heard that on a stage in a discussion. So it just shows the migration and the direction the industry is heading. Very interesting.
Now, so good to see projects like these. And that's what we were just discussing before coming on the stage, that there have been a lot of talks, there's been a lot of discussions, but it's very good to see now. I just don't want to say institutional investors or qualified investors coming into this space, but now we're seeing that more and more people are educated and aware of this space, and this is how this space is going to grow. And Dubai and overall in UAE has done a fantastic job for it, not just with the regulatory framework and the legal system, but also creating and inviting people from all over the world to come and discuss these great projects. And what we've seen, so this is interesting. This is my first time to come and talking as a woman panelist. I've always just been a panelist, and it just happened that in the panel it's all men and I'm the only woman there. But good to see a lot of women working in this space. My law firm initially was an all-women's law firm. We did not realize it till somebody pointed that to us and said, hey, it's just that all women are working here. But now we are, what we said, we've diversified. We do have a lot of men working with us, and it's been quite interesting to see how this whole tech sector has grown. How UAE as a country, or I would, not just UAE, the entire region's been very, very supportive and very progressive in this space.
So at White Star, what we are doing, I mean, our main priority, of course, are returns. That's number one. And in fact, in the first fund, we're already returning 4 times, so it has been very successful. And now that's why we're launching 120 million just on digital asset fund. But we are incorporating as well a lot of support in every matter, growth, we call it growth capital, and value capital. And even 40% of our team are women, so we are definitely, I mean, the founder is amazing, he's really into inclusion. We are in 8 countries, we are more than 20 nationalities, so it's very strong on that. And we are even adding as well a chief sustainability officer. So in every project that we invest, we make sure that there's the responsible investment, that there's always an angle for making sure that there's sustainable investment with returns being the main priority.
And some of the things you've all mentioned today when it comes to setting up a digital and also an online metaverse organization, an all-woman board, also what you've mentioned when it comes to technology inclusivity, compared to your organizational structures 10 years ago, how would you say, based on the feedback that you're getting from the boards, that we've seen an improvement in structures or also speed, productivity? How has that been evaluated?
It goes back, especially in the UAE, 65 of government entities are all women right now. It goes back to also the strategic agendas, following what they want and the KPIs, right? And it's our time, I think. I'm just going to say that. It's our time to step out. It's a new sector. It's like the financial sector back in the 90s, but it's a digital sector and we're stepping ahead, I think.
Amazing.
In fact, to add to that 65%, UAE is one of the first countries where it was mandatory for every public listed company to have a woman on board. And these women were not just there to fill in a requirement, but they've been actively participating. Most of the ministries, now you see even in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, here in UAE, it's women who are there. So in the last decade, we've seen a lot of progressive approach and steps being taken by the governments here. The society overall, the education, the awareness, getting the women to come and work into these business. And a lot of them are entrepreneurs. And with the support from their families, from the society, and the education that they all have done tremendously well.
So I think nowadays, to be a woman is an asset, to be honest, because we're still the minority. Definitely on tech, it's around 10% on the startup community, and investment is around 2%. So still a lot to do, and it's being proven that when there's inclusion, I don't like to say woman or not, but yes, when there's inclusion, diversity, the returns are much higher. It's facts and figures, right? So it's a moment in history that is detrimental. And it's, as Cristina Lagarde says, it's all about GDP growth. So the more women, the more people we put into work or putting into purpose, and more we can, increase the amount of impact that we can make together. So it's definitely an asset today.
Absolutely, and I was reading a statistic today that was saying by 2028 we're expected to see 1 billion users in the metaverse. So this is not a race to get people on board, it's men and women, it's incentivizing both of them. Now, as a final note, because we are on our final 10 minutes, I would love just to ask each 3 of you today when it comes to where we stand and what we need to do next. And for people that are in the audience that are listening, what actions can they take to ensure they're embracing this new digital economy and that they're ensuring they're as inclusive as possible?
I think I'll be very transparent. It's stop monetizing. That's the only thing I can say. It's from the NFT world, from the metaverse world. People right now forget the sense of in the end of the day, we're humans, right? We need that human touch to it. And that goes back, why am I doing a hybrid model? People right now are monetizing. There's a lot of companies and commercial companies that are coming, especially in Dubai. It's an open area for all companies. But it's thinking about what to give back to the community. Yes, you can, prove your point, do your business model, do a solid framework, but what are you giving back? People maybe 10 years ago really were paying attention, international corporations, onto CSR, corporate social responsibility, and it became a highlighted word in every entity. We don't want to be that way. We want to create something that defines us without using labels and all the other stuff.
So one of the things that, a couple of things that we all should think about being in this community right now and what we want to do in the next 10 years is to make sure there's a lot of education There's a lot of awareness around these things. There are still a lot of people who get scammed on a daily basis or maybe in an hourly basis in this space purely because of the whole greed of the human population and not knowing what is the space they're getting into. And interestingly, in this whole digital space, we've got into a great FOMO space. And in that FOMO, people don't go back and step back and say, okay, I need to read more. I need to make myself aware before making a decision. It's all about, because the big guys are coming in doing a huge monetization and showing a lot of money being made, but not paying emphasis on that what this digitization actually means. What is it, why is it getting important? When we are in a global space, in the last 2 years of this whole COVID era of our life where we've been in a digital space, we've seen the real use case of that technology. So it's not just about a commercial gain, but to understand what this technology can do for us. So there's education, there's awareness, there's making sure that every time you're hearing about a project, spend a little time to understand who are the people behind it, what is this project's end objective, how does the team look at delivering it. So a lot of awareness still needs to come into this space. We're seeing a lot of incentives and initiatives being taken by the governments around to do it, by community groups, by doing these events, by reading and researching on it. So I think still a long way to go, but in these 10 years from now, we would be looking back to these days and saying, it all started like this, and see now where we are.
Yeah, because to build on that, whatever we build today, right, and even in the first Meta Week, this can change the course of history for good, right? So it's a bit about taking the responsibility of being these catalysts for impact, for positive change, to be the enablers for the next community to co-create from this group, to connect, to catalyze growth, and the most important, I believe, is to create value, to create really sustainable value. So this is just the beginning. Hopefully next, it's somewhere else, Singapore, we can do it. I was talking to Olga, that could be a good one. Or anywhere in the world, definitely on the metaverse, we might meet again soon. So to create value together.
And I have to agree as well, and a huge thank you to Ola, because it's been an amazing conference. The standard and caliber of people here have been exceptional. And also this is one of the first metaverse conferences that I've attended. To see how forward progressive people are moving forward is really remarkable. What's in store, especially when it comes to your organization, moving into the metaverse in the next few months? What kind of roadmaps and challenges are you seeing? I'm very intrigued by this. It's very interesting.
It's exciting, to be honest. It's exciting. It's our first try. It's a new project, and I'll go back to your point, which is understanding the value of the project. Whether it's in the metaverse or in the real life, it's if I contribute in this project, what's the value of this company or organization? What are they giving us back, or what are they giving the community back? And I'm really excited of it, and I love it. I love how it's a hybrid project. So purchasing an NFT, you can see it in the physical world. It's not just digital, which is exciting, and
And it adds an element of security as well in the space. I know everyone here has touched on regulatory hurdles and also ensuring security for users. And the new technology that we are incorporating does eliminate an element of risk that I think also adds an extra open door for women that might be a little bit more risk averse to enter into the community as well.
Exactly, I agree with you. And in regards of our corporation, and what we do is we reinvest as a foundation. We reinvest in women-led startups. It's the values of the company. It's from the community to the community. And we're welcoming all women. We're empowering the youth, and we're empowering people who are new in this industry.
And we have had an audience migration shift, that we have seen a lot more men come into the room, which is amazing. So as a final note, I think we are just going to touch quickly on International Women's Day as we are here. We've talked about inclusivity as a whole, but what does today mean for you and your women in the organization and what they bring to the table?
Should we go ahead? Now with the International Women's Day, I always have this thing that, why do we need this day? We should pretty much, every day is a day for everyone. And if you see in the 1800s, when actually International Women's Day started, it was for three basic things. It was for same wage as women, same wage as men, voting rights, and shorter working hours for women. In 200 years, we've achieved only one so far. So it's still a long way, and I should not go by my personal view on it, but overall, I think we need to celebrate all humans every day. We need to celebrate the fact that who are we and why are we here? What this technology is helping us do is fast forward and achieve a lot in the lifespan that we have. And we all need to be thankful at all times that we are in it. And in that we should not, I think it's about time we should not be looking at gender, race, origin. We should all rise above it. We all believe in this beautiful technology, that's why we are here, and this technology is gender neutral. We talk about it in a very neutral way, so I think it's about time that we reach. So I normally stay away from saying, hey, women empowerment. I say, it's human empowerment. We need to empower everybody.
I love that, and there's a big smile from you there.
I agree, we can call it genderless. The metaverse should be genderless. Because I believe a lot on the collaboration, no matter what, kind of background or definitely gender. It's totally, I love to work with men, definitely, because they're very different. I always work with a lot of women. So it's beautiful to work, with different gender, and definitely genderless. It's the future of metaverse. So why not a human capital day, right?
Exactly.
Humanity day, or we can totally change. And in the metaverse, you can be whoever you want to be.
Exactly.
So I remember I was attending one, the first metaverse, but was totally on Oculus, a bit different. And you could be whoever you wanted to be. And that was super exciting because you could totally be genderless. So there were a lot of genderless people on the, on the Metaverse conference. So let's call it differently. Human Day.
Human empowerment.
Amazing. Fantastic. Well, thank you all so much. It was a pleasure to share the stage with you, and you'll have to keep us updated with all of the progress as it unfolds. I think this is the final panel for today, so thank you to everyone that has stayed for the last discussion of the day. A huge thank you to Ola once again. You've done an amazing job at this conference. It's been such a pleasure.